A reading from the letter to the Hebrews. In the days when Christ was in the flesh, he offered prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverence. Son though he was, he learned obedience from what he suffered, and when he was made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Save me, O Lord, in your kindness. Save me, O Lord, in your kindness. In you, O Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your justice, rescue me. Make haste to deliver me. Save me, Lord, in your kindness. Be my rock of refuge, a stronghold to give me safety. You are my rock and my fortress. For your name's sake, you will lead and guide me. Save me, O Lord, in your kindness. You will free me from the snare they set for me, for you are my refuge. Into your hands I commend my spirit. You will redeem me, O Lord, O faithful God. Save me, O Lord, in your kindness. But my trust is in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. In your hands is my destiny. Rescue me from the clutches of my enemies and my persecutors. Save me, O Lord, in your kindness. How great is your goodness, O Lord, which you have in store for those who fear you, and which, towards those who take refuge in you, you show in the sight of the children of men. Save me, O Lord, in your kindness.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple there whom he loved, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her into his home. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Good morning. Today we commemorate the sorrows of Our Lady. And in general, as an American culture, we don't mourn particularly well compared to other cultures, older cultures. We tend to kind of want to move on. When there's a tragedy, there's a crisis. We don't have it within our customs we just shut down for a week and have a period of mourning or a period of acknowledging a loss, whether it's an untimely death or even if it's a timely death. But something that the church has always made a point of her reflection is not only the joys of salvation and the resurrection, and Jesus has conquered sin and death, but she's made sure as well that we reflect on the real sorrow and suffering along the way. And so today we enter into those sorrows of Mary, her unique participation in her son. So we have the seven sorrows of Mary, right? The seven sorrows of Mary. And let's review those. So there is Mary in the temple when she meets Simeon, and he gives her that initial prophecy that a sword will pierce your soul. And she treasured these things in her heart. She hid them in her heart, not knowing really what that would be for her. But this is the first of the sorrows, giving her a hint that there would be a suffering for her to endure. And then later there's the flight into Egypt. Because of persecution now, they are seeking the death of her child. She escapes into Egypt. Egypt isn't right next door to where she lived. That was a significant trip, and there for many years. The second suffering. The third suffering, losing Jesus in the temple. Can you imagine what would have gone through the heart of the Blessed Mother, having heard the prophecies, having heard the angel Gabriel, having heard the prophet Simeon, having heard Joseph recount to her the angels visiting him, and all that this child is to be, and there's that moment, he's gone, he's lost. And what might that have been in her heart for that time until she found her son? Then the sorrows pick up at the journey of Jesus with the cross. So she meets him on the road for the fourth sorrow. We commemorate that in the Stations of the Cross, the meeting of her son. And then the fifth sorrow is her standing at the foot of the cross while her son is enduring his passion at its height. The sixth sorrow is her son being taken down from the cross. Now he has died. It is finished. And she sees the child which she bore and raised being taken down from the cross, and now his lifeless body. And the seventh sorrow is him being placed in the tomb. Now, we don't really know for sure what Mary knew, what Mary hoped for, what her knowledge was in relation to the resurrection. But what we do know is she suffered at each of these moments. And I think a takeaway for us today, and I want to read something from Bernard Clairvaux in just a moment, is we often want to, whether by intention or not by intention, maybe it's usually out of reverence, but to sterilize the life of Mary and Jesus, that there's profound piety and love and faithfulness, and we reflect in sacred art these types of pictures, which aren't incorrect, of the Blessed Mother holding the child Jesus. But to realize that she genuinely endured suffering, and she was without sin by grace. Jesus, without sin by nature, he is the one who suffered. I get to have many conversations with people that wrestle with why do they encounter suffering? Well, I think we don't have to look too much further than the Blessed Mother, who was without sin. Her Son, the author of life, God in the flesh, to see that the life of holiness doesn't mean we avoid the life of suffering. And I leave you with these words from Bernard of Clairvaux as he reflects on the suffering Mary endured having her son given to John. And then when I read this for the first time, it really struck me. I often have taught about that over the years on what a glorious moment this is for various different reasons, the giving of Mary to John. But from Mary's perspective, here's what he says. "Oh, were those words, 'Woman, behold your son,' not more than a word to you, truly piercing your heart, cutting through the division between soul and spirit. What an exchange! John is given to you in place of Jesus. The servant in place of the Lord, the disciple in place of the master. The son of Zebedee replaces the Son of God. A mere man replaces God himself. How could these words not pierce your most loving heart when the mere remembrance of them breaks ours, hearts of iron and stone though they are? Let us call on the intercession of the Blessed Mother for us in our suffering and for those who are suffering. Because like her son, who is not a high priest who doesn't sympathize with our suffering, she as well sympathizes. Let's ask for her intercession that we might persevere in our faith. Amen? Amen.